Every once in a while, a game comes along that just doesn't make any sense, where the script gets completely thrown out the window. And that is exactly what happened when FIU took on Western Kentucky. For 3 quarters, it was a total blowout. But then, the fourth quarter happened. So let's break down one of the absolute wildest comebacks of the entire year. Just look at that score. It's late in the third quarter, and Western Kentucky is cruising, up 24-7. They are in complete, total control. At home. For pretty much any football game, this is the point where you're already thinking about how to beat the traffic. This thing is over, right? And that right there is the big question, isn't it? That's what we're here to figure out. How do you possibly go from that deficit at that point in the game to walking off the field with a win? Well, we're going to break down exactly how it happened, piece by impossible piece. Okay, so to really appreciate the comeback, you first have to understand the hole they were in. And I mean, Western Kentucky didn't just build a lead. For 3 full quarters, they built a fortress. They were absolutely dominant. And they did it with these huge, explosive, back-breaking plays. A field goal to get things going, then a 34-yard touchdown pass. Then, right before halftime, they rip off a massive 70-yard touchdown run. And just when FIU finally gets on the board in the third to get a little bit of hope, bam! A 102-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. That's a dagger. That's a knockout punch right there. Let's be really clear here. This wasn't some back-and-forth game that got away from them. This was a 45-minute demolition. WKU was firing on all cylinders, FIU looked like they had no answers, and the game was, for all intents and purposes, completely locked up. And then, it all changed. The fourth quarter wasn't just a comeback, it was a total offensive explosion. Forget building a wall. FIU brought out the dynamite and blew the entire thing up in what felt like 10 minutes of game time. It all starts right here. With just over 8 minutes left to play, Keijon Owens punches it in from 2 yards out. At the time, it kind of feels like a consolation score, Makes the final score look a little better. It's 24-14. Okay.
But then, not even 2 minutes later, it's Owens again. This time, he's gone, 63 yards for the score. An absolute lightning strike. And all of a sudden, it is not a consolation prize, it's a real ballgame. In the blink of an eye, it's 24-21, and suddenly everyone in that stadium is on the edge of their seat.
And they weren't done. Oh no. Just over 2 minutes later, Keon Jenkins hits Dallas Payne for a 21-yard touchdown, and FIU has the lead. Are you kidding me? In less than 4 minutes of game time, they have completely, totally flipped the script. It is absolute madness. And this right here, this was the final nail. Alejandro Prado splits the uprights from 31 yards out to make it a 7-point game. 24 unanswered points, all in the fourth quarter, to seal one of the most improbable victories you will ever see. So, okay, that's what happened. It was incredible. But how? How on earth does a team flip a switch that dramatically? Well, it wasn't magic. It was a perfect storm of clutch performances. And it all started with one guy who just decided he was not going to lose. First and foremost, a comeback like this, you need a hero. You need one player to just put the team on his back and will them to victory. And on this particular night, that player was running back Keijon Owens. It was, plain and simple, the Keijon Owens show. And I mean, the guy did absolutely everything. He wasn't just a runner. He was dominant on the ground with 134 yards and those 2 massive touchdowns, but he was also a huge factor in the passing game, adding another 67 yards. He was a true dual threat, accounting for more than half of FIU's entire offense. He was the engine. But look, even a hero can't do it all alone. A comeback this big requires the entire unit to execute perfectly. And that's what happened. FIU's offense became a model of just unbelievable efficiency when it mattered the most. And check this out. This is a huge reason why they pulled it off. Third downs. FIU converted an incredible 70% of their third downs. Think about that. 7 out of 10 times they needed to keep a drive alive, they did it. That is how you sustain momentum, and that is how you absolutely demoralize a defense. And they weren't just grinding out first downs, they were hitting home runs. FIU averaged almost 8 yards every single time they snapped the ball. That's over 2 full yards more than Western Kentucky. That big playability was just simmering all night. And in the fourth quarter, it finally just boiled over.
All right, so you can score all you want, but you can't come back if you don't get stops on the other side of the ball. And after getting gashed early, the FIU defense decided to completely flip the script and just bring the heat.
And it wasn't just one guy getting hot. The entire defensive front was a nightmare. It was a feeding frenzy. Lamont Green Jr. led the charge with 2.5 sacks, but you had Anderson, Shannon, Cheney. They were all getting in on the action. This relentless swarming pressure just suffocated WK's offense when they needed a stop. And all that pressure, it created this moment right here, the single biggest momentum shift of the entire game. Keyshawn Brewer comes up with a 53-yard interception return. In a game full of huge plays, this was the only turnover, and it went FIU's way.
And this number right here might be the most important stat of the entire game: 0. To pull off a comeback like this, you have to play perfect, mistake-free football. FIU did not give Western Kentucky a single short field, not one extra possession. That kind of discipline is the absolute foundation of pulling off the impossible.
So when you start to put all these pieces together, a picture starts to emerge. This comeback wasn't just luck. It was a formula. It was a blueprint for how to steal a victory from the absolute jaws of defeat.
So what's the recipe? What's the secret sauce for an impossible comeback? Well, it really boils down to this. You need an offensive star who can carry you. You have to be ruthlessly efficient on those crucial downs. Your defense has to step up and create absolute chaos. And you cannot make a single critical error. You have to be perfect.
It is one of the oldest cliches in sports, and there's a reason for it, because it is so true. For 3 quarters, FIU's start was a total disaster, but their finish? Man, their finish was absolutely legendary.
This game is going to live on in FIU history forever. It's a perfect example of what it means to never, ever give up. And it really makes you wonder, what's the most unbelievable comeback that you've ever seen in any sport? Just think about that moment, that feeling when you realize the impossible is actually happening right in front of your eyes. That's what makes sports so great.